Hey everyone. Something I've been thinking for some time was to try and do a drawing exercise, something where I draw for a bit, explain my steps, my reasoning, and you follow along with me. So I've been trying to think of the exercise and how I could approach it in a way that makes sense, that is also fun and entertaining, but also informative as well. And this is going to be the result. For the exercise today, you will follow me along as I draw one drawing comprised of 3 characters. And for the exercise, you're going to need a red pen, a black pen, maybe a pencil, and also, of course, some paper. So please join me in this drawing exercise as soon as you have your material. And what is the best way to offset the current market downtrend? Of course, it is to draw a bit. As I said in the beginning, you're going to need a red pen. The red pen is we're going to build a skeleton. We're going to build the skeleton in a way that it is what I think makes sense for the context of the exercise. It is a very simple way of drawing the skeleton. I don't want to make it overly complicated. And the red pen is really just for provide guidance. And I would ask that you follow along. Use a red pen as well, or any other color that has a strong highlighting feel to you. And yeah, we're gonna start. The idea today is that we're gonna draw 3 characters interacting. 3 characters. So 3. Let me zoom in. Okay. We're gonna draw 3 characters interacting. The idea for the drawing came actually from a previous sketch that I have done 5 or 6 months ago. I don't remember exactly. And it is a drawing that it's going to be for my travel sketchbook. So this is my travel sketchbook based on a trip to Japan all the way back in 2023. And the travel sketchbook itself is not yet complete, but it's getting there. I believe I only have 20 to, not even 20, I have like 10 pages to complete before the travel sketchbook is complete. You have some more experimental pages and you also have more well-defined pages. And for the purposes of the travel sketchbook, I did keep most of the scenes limited to 3 characters interacting. So it's going to be the same for this one. We're going to do a drawing based on 3 characters interacting. Very simple. The idea is to keep it very, very simple. And for that, we're going to use a simplified skeleton. That's the whole idea, to keep it simple. I don't want to overcomplicate things. And when I say skeleton, I'm going to go and draw the skeleton very quickly for you. This is the most simplified way I can teach you. You start with a rectangle, which is your face, right? And then you probably already saw videos of this where people draw a very complicated skeleton. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep it simple. So I'm just going to draw one line. This is for the torso, and you have your neck here. You have your sternum here. So just you add some balls for the shoulders. And you add 2 lines as well for the hips. You have your neck here, right? More or less around the midpoint, you have where your arm bends. So the biceps here, the forearm here, and then the rest of the arm. You can like draw a trapezium for the hand, and then the same for the knee. For this one, actually, I do recommend that you draw it with a curve to the outside, the tibia, and then a triangle for the feet. So this is our very simplified mannequin. It almost resembles a stick figure, right? So you have your stick figure and you just make it more human-like. So we're gonna take this as our starting place for the drawing. So I'm gonna keep this on the side so I don't forget about it. So you're gonna need, like I said before, a blank piece of paper for the drawing. And this is where we're gonna do our three characters interacting in a way that mimics the whole experience that I had when traveling back. Not back, but traveling through Japan. With red pen on hand, we're gonna do our first character, and I hope this also helps you see how is it that I approach a drawing like this that has one or two, even more characters interacting with one another in a scene that is, I think, hopefully conveys the idea of fun, something slice of life that is happening, that could be happening um, as you are just walking around town. So let's start, and how I usually always start, and I ask that you follow along with me, and you can also pause the video at any time. Like I said before, we're gonna do the simplified skeleton for the characters. So we're just gonna do a simplified skeleton like this, and the characters are gonna be sitting. Also to make it easier for you. And I always start with the head. And I start in my head, I do visualize this first rectangle. The first rectangle where I'm going to put the first character. And then after I draw my first rectangle in my head, I draw the first, or rather, I think of the torso. I think of the torso. So I have my neck here, right? I have my neck here. So I'm gonna draw my sternum, and I'm gonna draw the character in a way that she is pouring a drink. She's pouring a drink. So it's gonna be a scene at a table. She's pouring a drink. And for this first character, we're gonna keep it simple. So I have my sternum here, balls for the shoulder, like this for the arm, and then like this, and then just the trapezius, as I was saying, for the hand. Nothing too crazy, just a stick figure essentially. And then for the other arm, holding the cup. Simple. Or rather, I think it's simple. Hopefully, so do you. Like this, my rectangle. Once I have laid out the first character, I'm gonna draw the other characters in relation to this first one. So that's gonna be the idea. The whole thing is gonna be drawn as if I was drawing everything in relation to this first rectangle. Continuing on. I'm gonna draw my second character here. So I'm thinking that they are all sitting in a table, and the table can be, just for the sake, the table can be something like this. So you're just gonna draw a rectangle, rectangle, rectangle. So pretend that this is a table and you're kind of looking at from above. I would even suggest that, and of course this is something that if I were to think a bit more before I do the drawing, I would probably just shorten the table to right above here, just so that the table doesn't occupy so much of the drawing. So I would probably chop off this part, like with the scissor. Whoop. So you don't need to draw this whole rectangle, you just probably need to draw this rectangle here. Again, balance is important, and something that I do try and think, hopefully I'm able to achieve it in my drawings, a nice balanced drawing. I'm gonna then draw my second character. So this is my first one, and my second character, it's gonna be done in relation to this one, because it is a bit closer to the let's say to the camera, to the viewer. The head is gonna be a bit bigger, and like so. Perfect. Like so. The neck here, the sternum, the arm, like so. And for this character, I had planned to have her with the hand supporting the head, so like so. And by the way, your rectangle doesn't need to be necessarily perfect, far from it. You just need to have it to guide as a reference for the final positioning of your characters. So the torso, and then something like this for the hips, like so, legs, like so. And like I said before, because I'm actually chopping the table here, the legs of course will be fully visible. So just something like this. Simple. This character probably is the hardest one to draw. So for the third character, I'm gonna keep it a bit more simple. We're gonna draw the character backwards to us, with the back to us. And because we have our second character here, and the character is already sitting pretty far across the table, it makes sense that the head of the third character, right, would be more or less around the same level. So in relation to character 2. Tuk, 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 tuk. I mean, the lines are not parallel because, frankly, I'm stupid, but let's assume that there's a parallel line here. So the heads would be more or less at the same level. Simple perspective. Myself, I'm quite ignorant in perspective as well, so I employ all sorts of just basic tricks, like ensuring that the heads are at the same level, more or less, in this case. And then I do have my neck, my stick figure, right? And like I said, I'm gonna keep this very simple. The sternum, the arm, like this. Super cool, right? Super cool. And the hand. We have our hand here. Perfect. And this hand will probably be obscured by the body, because if I draw the arm, the forearm up in this direction, the forearm would be obstructed by the body. And then I'm just gonna draw the hips. And probably based on the size of this head, I would have to increase the size of the torso just a little bit. So maybe just a tiny bit more. So if you can do that, like so, and then like so. Shoulder, perfect, perfect, like this. Feet for legs. Getting back to this, character number 1, character number 2, character number 3. We have our table. Of course, we cannot forget that the table is gonna have legs, right? It's gonna have legs. But this is the basic character setup. So this is what I have in my mind when attempting a drawing. And the character is going to be interacting, and then we can also just add some items here for flavor. So they're going to be at a bar, they're just drinking, let's say. Of course, and I do say of course quite a lot, but the characters are going to be sitting, so we do need to consider the stools, right, in which they are sitting. What I did here was a square like this. Keep it very simple. It's like if you were to draw a 3D cube, but you don't draw this part, right? If I were to then have it as a final bank for the character to sit on, something like this. Simple. Same for the, what's this even called in English? I forgot, but you know, the chair feet. So my chair feet over here, and I do blacken this out because this one is obscured by the others. You can get fancy and also draw a shadow. You can do all sorts of things. You can then play around, maybe check online for some patterns for the chair. I don't know, maybe some type of quilt, some type of weave. For this part, I do check online quite a bit for interesting textures on what could potentially work for this chair. Yeah, but we went on a long enough ramble regarding chairs. But we still need to consider this chair over here, right? Let me zoom out. We still need to consider this chair over here, which quite simply you just put another rectangle and it can follow the lines of the hip. It doesn't need to be very precise. And like we said before, it needs to have like feet. This part is because it's going to be obscured, right? You don't see this part of the chair, but you keep it in your head. When you draw the piece, that's not obscured because the object needs to make sense in the world it is in. So more like feet. Yeah, we have our characters. This is what I would have in my head when attempting a drawing with characters interacting. This is what I have. Once I have this more or less figured out in the back of my head, I then grab a pen, black pen, blue pen, pencil, whatever it is that you like, enjoy drawing with, and then I would just start filling the blanks. One thing that you can do, it's not overly complicated, is if you have this as your guide for the head and this as your guide for the neck, right? If you have these, and then more or less around, so you have the middle of your rectangle, more or less at this level, you're gonna have the eyes. Slightly below the medium line, you're gonna have the nose, and then the mouth. And you can do this, you can make a good looking character just with these lines. If I were to make it again inside my rectangle with the black pen, of course then I would need to add the hair. Draw the hair as big strands. Don't do individual strands for the most part. unless you want to go for a specific style where every single strand is drawn. So just this, you have a character that's good looking. A couple of lines, really. 1, 2, 3, 4, and you have a face. For the hair, don't do like this. Don't do like this for the hair. Don't do individual strands. Just keep it focused and draw like big strands of hair. Pretty cool. With this in mind, we're gonna draw the first character, and I'm gonna zoom in. We're gonna draw our first character. Keeping in mind that the eye is gonna be more or less around here, slightly above the medium line. I start with a eye. And then the second eye. Nose. And then like this. One small correction that I would do, and because I was distracted, is that I would actually make sure that the eyes are looking downwards. Like so. Why would I make that the eyes are looking downwards? It's because if the character is going to be pouring a drink, it would make sense that he or she would be looking towards the bottle. It just makes sense. But yeah, got distracted. For the purposes of this video, we continue. Like this, we have our chin. Let's get with the hair. The hair, depending on the volume of the hair, most of the time it always goes further than the rectangle, because the rectangle is more for it's more for the skull. So I would fit my skull here. So the rectangle more or less fits the skull. And then if the skull has some beautiful locks, they go outside of the box. So something like this. They extend out of the rectangle. And you can draw this exercise as well. Though not sure how visible it is because it is a rather small box. So we have our character. Let's not forget about the eyebrows. And we can just do a simple half moon shape. And thus I'm going to do it on the corrected character. And then I'm going to draw the hair. Super cool. Keeping it simple. Just some big shapes. The ear, of course, is more or less around this part, the medium part of the rectangle. You don't need to get too technical. You don't necessarily need to know all the volumes of the ear. You don't need to know all that. It's just boring, unless you really like that. Perfect. we have more or less our character, and I'm gonna draw it here as well, because here the eyes are corrected like I said before. So here, the face of our first character, and everything that I'm going to draw afterwards is in relationship to this first head. Always, in my case, I always start with the head, and for the most part, I usually either start with the eye or with the forehead line, like this line over here. That's invisible, but you can see the line of the forehead. Depending on the angle that I want to use, I can go for a more realistic look or a more stylized look. This one, for the sake of simplicity, it's going to be a bit more stylized. I don't want to make it overly complicated. Continuing on, we have our first head. Everything then is going to be drawn in relation to this first character. And of course, we have our neck. The neck follows along this line over here that goes more or less, no, it goes until the sternum. Right, so we would have our chest over here, abdomen here, hips here. But my character, and for the most part, my characters are clothed. The neck shows, but this part over here is not going to show, so I'm going to draw a shirt. Quite cool. And drawing here the corrected. Just some texture lines for fun. But yeah, well, like I said, you would have the neck here, and then sternum here, and then, well, I studied anatomy and I forgot what this thing is called. But yeah, this thing over here that connects into the shoulders. So the shoulders that would be over here. We have our collar for the shirt. The shoulder is more or less always a ball that follows along. And the character is clothed, so we're just going to follow along the lines of the arm. I could go on and on about clothing folds, but it's not necessarily the purpose. So try to draw the purpose of this lesson. So try to draw folds as best as you can. You have plenty of examples to look at. Try to see in your day-to-day how your clothes fold as you move along. Also pay attention to people around you as well. Also, you can check online for that. Super cool. And here we have our end of our shirt, let's say. It's a I don't even know what I'm gonna draw here. Yes, before I start drawing, I try to think of the wardrobe a bit more. This one is just a complete mess. This doesn't make sense unless the character is wearing some type of vest. Yeah, maybe the character is wearing some type of vest or some sweater. But let's continue. Forget that this is happening over here because this is the, I don't know what's it called, but it's usually found in jackets, not necessarily in a shirt. For the hand, keep it very simple. Just make sure that you don't forget to draw 5 fingers with the thumb, right? you're gonna draw a glass, and then you're gonna draw the other arm. You're gonna draw the other arm like so. Arm extends, so the arm is extending. So the character is about to start pouring the bottle. You can see that I made some mistakes along the way, especially here in how this hand here would relate to this one. For a second attempt, or as I refine this in my head before I start drawing, I would actually try to draw the hand more like this. And the bottle is almost horizontal, so that it can pour the liquid. Let's now try drawing this character in a clean sheet of paper so that we have our reference more well defined. So I'm gonna zoom out. Perfect. We have our character here. We have a more well defined idea of the character right here. And we're gonna try to compensate for any mistakes on a third attempt. Like I said before, I start with the forehead line. I'm gonna draw the eye looking downwards. Concentrated expression. And it's fun to just try and iterate like this. You don't need to hit it perfectly the first time. You can just have fun trying out ideas. See what makes sense. So maybe for this attempt, I want to have the character's ears not obstructed, and maybe some earrings. Something like this. Maybe something like this is cool, right? Perfect. We have our character right here. Maybe some eyelashes. And then you can just color it with the black. Maybe the character has black hair. Maybe it has a different shade of hair. Maybe it has something completely different. But you iterate on it, then you draw your neck, keeping in mind that you have your neck and you have your sternum here. The collar with some lines. I always do, for some reason, in shirts, I always do these lines. I don't know why, just an habit. And you will develop these habits as well as you draw. Then, because this arm number one, let's call it that, is the one that I struggle the most when, and I want this shoulder here to be more raised than this one, I would do it like this. Like this. So I've committed that the character is wearing some type of shirt or sweater. I think a sweater looks better, and I'll show you in a bit how I'm gonna do it. The hand, right? Doesn't need to be overly complicated. You're just having some fun. You have your cup. I'm not really thinking a lot about the fingers. I'm just keeping it simple. So I'm just doing fingers, making sure that I have 4 fingers, and maybe here I can work in reverse. So I want to have my bottle here, pouring the drink. Like splish, 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 splash. Of course, it's the noise that it makes when it pours. So I have my bottle here, and like I said before, I'm gonna have my end. So this arm I'm gonna do in reverse. I'm gonna start with the hand. So the liquid is just pouring into. Super cool. And because remember that the sternum now is like this, it's more inclined, right? The arm is something like this. Some super simple lines. I'm not really thinking a whole lot. But yeah, this more or less here, this is more or less what I wanted to do. Keeping in mind that I have everything here, right? A few corrections could be made, definitely a lot. Like the arm here, it's the arm, not the hand is overly simplified. This is for the purposes of the demo. Perhaps I could shorten the arm more or less until here, not here, so incorrect. I would shorten the arm here. Because it needs to be more or less the same size as this one, right? Yeah, we have our character here. This is the first character. Now, one more detail, because I do have the collar shirt. Maybe it's wearing a sweater. The character is wearing a sweater. Just keeping some triangles, very simple. I'm trying not to make it very complicated. And we have our first character. You see, we work on the process of iterating, trying different things before I commit to a drawing in my head, before I go and do it and record one of those videos that you guys like to see. This is more or less the process. This is the first character. Oops. This is the first character that we're gonna do, that I invite you to try out and do it. One thing that you can also do is try and reverse the orientation of the character. See if that makes sense. By reversing I'm meaning the direction of the sternum. Is it something that makes sense? You can try it. You can also go online and search for different bottles. See what would look cool. For bottles, you can see online maybe some cool ones with different logos. See if you can incorporate into this that you've drawn here, maybe some different shapes. One thing that you can also do is study how is it that your hand would grab a bottle. So maybe you would grab the bottle just with three fingers like so, and it would show more of the bottle. And is it wine? Is it beer? Is it just a Coke? You see here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and the thumb 5. So you can try and see for yourself. You can grab some bottle and see how is it that you draw the bottle itself, and just iterate on it. Try multiple things. Same for the glass, same for the earrings, same for the hair. Go outside, see people hair, see how is it that they've styled their hair, see clothing. That's the whole idea for this iterating process that we do, and we try to keep as much information as we can in our head before we do the final drawing. Try to have the main bullet points in our head well defined so that we can then attempt to do the drawing. This is the first part, this is the first character. We will continue on video 2 with the second character, and on video 3 with the third character, and maybe we'll have a last video putting it all together. I think that you would appreciate that, definitely. Again, the idea is to invite you to follow along and draw the mannequin, different poses. Like I said before, the mannequin doesn't need to be overly complicated. You can just do something simple and have fun with it. So, see you guys on the second video. I will also have a separate drawing course coming soon, which I think will be very interesting. It will go into more detail about all these topics that I have. The drawing course is scheduled to be launched this summer, so stay tuned on my social media accounts, and we will go into more detail on how is it that you can do these drawings. It will go into extra detail, trying to do my best to promote it here, but it will have more detail on drawing faces, hands, multiple scenes, as well as perspective. So stay tuned for that as well. So see you guys on the second video where we will draw this character right over here. Or maybe this one. Maybe we flip around the order. Hope you liked it.